Report, your podcast covering all things Open Division and Contenders, the path to pro for Overwatch League. And here are your hosts, Thorn Rain and Kyle Wynn. Live from Horizon Lunar Colony, it's episode 15. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Fantastic episode name, because we literally got to watch the playoffs played at Horizon Lunar Colony. But to start the show off, we're going to throw it right over to our sponsor. Break away from your normal energy and go rogue. You can find Rogue Energy at therogueenergy.com. Use promo code BlackwatchReport at checkout for 10% off of your total purchase. They just released their new gold shaker. Just came out this week. So if you're a little more flashy and you want to break away from the black and red, you can go gold rogue now. So I am your host, Thorn Rain. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Kyle Wynn. How you doing tonight, Kyle?
Good. I love how their color scheme is exactly the same as ours. I feel like it's like a match made in heaven, essentially.
It literally worked out perfect. Like, you couldn't have asked for a better first sponsor.
The kind of vibe matches the same too, like Blackwatch is kind of the rogue entity of Overwatch. It's so perfect.
It is literally perfect. So what all did you do this week?
Oh man, I played like 20 minutes of Overwatch, mostly quick play. I haven't had the willpower to go back to comp yet. I've been playing Conan Exiles. I played 9 hours on Tuesday, I think it was. Yeah, I played 9 hours straight on Tuesday, because it just released, and my friends and I played way back in early beta, and they just overhauled everything. So I'll probably stream that after we're done here. And I watched a little bit of Overwatch yesterday. But I was trying to take a break as much as possible because I watched so many matches this last weekend.
It was a busy weekend.
It was, yeah. And it like I didn't do like I normally did. Like when we did kind of main season of Contenders, I would like kind of slow down, only watch like one matchup really in depth. But this one I wanted to kind of get all of them because like they weren't all 4-0s like you had occasionally during the main season. So, lots of notes. I have actually 3 full pages worth of notes. Actually, it's almost 4 now. It's like 3.5 pages of notes just on these matches. So
yeah, it's gonna be a pretty
what about you?
night.
How's it been going with you?
Not too bad. I literally played no games this week. I watched all of the NA semis and finals, the show match. But outside of that, it was the weekend that my wife
tapped out.
That my wife graduated from college with her first degree. So my mother-in-law was up from Florida, so we did a lot of stuff. Graduation party. Went to a Cavs watch party. Very sad about that. That did not feel good.
What happened with that again? Are they like major down right now?
Down 2-0.
Out.
No, 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, we got Golden State right next to us, and they're doing okay, I think. So everyone is super hyped about them over here on the other side of the world.
I hate Golden State. But this is not an NBA
no, not at all.
podcast at all. But yeah, just super busy between Contenders and the graduation and everything like that. So looking to get back to trying to stream a little bit this week and just wait for the next season of Contenders to start. Try to actually watch some Open Division matches now that I don't have Contenders to watch also.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I want to try to do that as well here.
So we're going to move down into our iTunes review, and guess what? We don't have any. Come on, people. We need those iTunes reviews. Like I said, I don't care if you give me a 1. 1 is better than none. Hook it up.
We have 1, but a 1 star is better than no stars.
Yeah. We have 1 right now, and he actually told us about somebody playing in the finals, Mr. Oh goodness, now I have him in my notes somewhere. the Lucio player for British
Funny
Hurricane,
Astro.
Funny
Yes.
Astro. He told us about Astro before we started watching EU, and by God,
Mhm.
his boops are nutty.
Yeah.
But we did get another Twitch follower. They are in the Discord. I want to thank Logical Panda 21 for the follow over on Twitch. It is greatly appreciated, getting us one step closer to that ever elusive affiliate. But with that, we're gonna roll right down into the news. So Kyle, why don't you grab number one for us?
So this was talked about on the flagship High Noon podcast show. So many of our listeners kind of carry over, but for anyone who didn't already listen to that, there has been some controversy regarding a certain favorite team of ours, Fusion University, and their jerseys in particular that had a giant FU on the front, but underneath it said Fusion University. They were banned for being quote unquote too spicy. That's not the actual quote. That is my terminology for it. And of course, there's some like controversy. So the Fusion people are like, no, we did everything we needed to do. They just didn't get back to us and approve them. And Blizzard was like, no, we didn't get a submission for approval early enough, so they weren't allowed to wear it. Instead, they went out in black T-shirts, like they're either doing some sort of political protest or they're like the laziest team out there. Who's like, I guess we'll just wear black T-shirts because we don't have anything else in common. So I think in terms of production, it kind of made the whole thing look a little bit less professional. I would have,
Yep.
like maybe I'm not the most sensitive human being on the planet, but I feel like it would have been probably less, I don't know, better for the league's reputation to just have them have their little jerseys up there. Or just not approve the name in the first place, like Deathbro brought up. Like if you can't like change your stance on it now and be like, well, okay, no, wait, hold on. Your guys' name is FU? It's like, yeah, we've been playing with that for like 6 weeks. Like,
And
why has that not been, dealt with earlier if that wanted to be dealt with?
I'm gonna point out the fact that like 2 weeks before we even like started thinking about going to Poland for the semifinals and finals, Fusion University did a giveaway on their Twitter that, you know, Totemly Drunk, another podcaster, won a Fusion University Who Are You jersey, which
Ooh.
is the exact jersey that they wore. So for 2 weeks prior to the playoffs, Blizzard knew what their jersey looked like.
Yeah.
They took the jerseys to Poland and then were denied using them in Poland. So you mean they didn't say anything earlier?
Yeah.
Like
And
it's
that
a
jersey
little
is gonna be
weird.
worth so much now too. Like Totemly is gonna be selling that thing in like 5 years when Who Are You's like in OWL and is a huge star. Like you'll have his jersey. Like it's probably worth more than even like the old Lunatic High jerseys
Yep.
because it's like super limited run. There's none else that exists because the whole jerseys got banned. I don't know if they were like actually banned from printing or if they're just like banned from being on stage. But like if it's banned from printing, big money on
According
that.
to Fusion University, they will go up for sale, and I will
Okay.
buy one because
Yes.
they're awesome.
I might get an elk one.
It's all about that Beast Halo.
Okay, that's fair.
Moving down into news number two, Big Box and I'm gonna butcher this, Hyunu have left Metagaming. They were tagged for Meta Athena and Meta Bellum, but they did leave Metagaming. So that's just another shuffle up of players that we see after the regular season of Contenders wrapped up.
Yeah, it's kind of, we saw lots of teams do this. We saw lots of people. I think it was Moopy previously, who is off of Fusion, not Fusion, Florida Mayhem Academy. So
Yep.
a lot of the less popular teams, a lot of the ones that don't have a really bright future, are going to end up doing this. Like any weak links or any players who think they might have a better opportunity, everything's going to reshuffle in these next couple of weeks. So we're going to have some good news with that, I guess. We're going to have lots of new teams formed, new looks, new switch ups, all that kind of stuff. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully that they have, better teams to go to or build their own teams or whatever.
Yep.
But we're putting the university in Fusion University because they teamed up with the Julian Krinsky Esports Camp for a summer camp program, letting camp goers train and play alongside the Fusion University members. So I think out of all the teams, Fusion University has done like 90 times more public outreach and stuff like that than any other team, even Overwatch League, it seems like. So big ups to the management over there who's doing just absolutely great work in trying to involve their like local communities in things and utilizing these very knowledgeable and skillful pros to try to bring up the esports community in the area as a whole. So that's awesome to see.
I mean, yeah, they literally have someone that they handpicked from Philadelphia, from the hometown hero, and then they take it to this camp. And then the camp is like limited to, I believe it's like 10 to 18. So
Oh, cool.
it's not even like this is something that just some random fan of Overwatch esports can do. Like this is literally a summer camp for, adolescents to go to and learn about esports and play with, semi-professionals. Which is really cool. Like it's good to see that they're doing that. And man, this week is a very Fusion
It's just
University
all
heavy
fusions, man.
news.
Jesus.
So last week we talked about the news that Arrow had left Fusion University literally days before the playoffs. But nobody knew where he was going. Well, now we know. He's going to the Dallas Fuel. He got his first win, so he's still undefeated as a coach. I mean, fantastic.
It's going last. It's gonna. I think they're playing. I don't know who Dallas is playing, but I think that they are probably. I think the streak ends week.
Just from when we talked to Arrow in the interview, and then just knowing what he did with a group of like 14 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
You give him a group of guys who are like legit professional players, he's gonna do wonders with the Dallas Fuel. Like I have faith in him.
And more so, I think that I'm hoping that this is what happens. And I was talking about this in the Discord a little bit earlier. Is that if Dallas dies, if the whole team gets blown up end of season 1, who do you want to rebuild your roster? Well, maybe the guy who coached and built the only undefeated Contenders roster in existence. They lost one, or not undefeated, but undefeated in Contenders technically.
In Contenders, yeah.
And they've only lost one match in their entire career, and they came back and rematched and won that. So, guy kind of knows how to pick good players and coach them well. So, I think if you're gonna rebuild, if you're gonna have a guy to kind of orchestrate that rebuild, you have Arrow, and that is a great pickup for them.
Oh yeah.
So,
and not to mention, you've got a couple of players from Fusion University that are of age or hitting age before season 2 that he's coached and he's worked with and knows what to do with them. So you want to pull players in, give him players that know his systems. Just saying, we could see Fusion University people going to Dallas for season 2, and I'd be okay with it.
Yep. Moving on to our last bit of news for the news section is Australian finals. So we've had every other type of finals, but I'm not exactly sure why this is true, but it's the way it is. This weekend is going to be the Australian finals. We've seen every finals except for Australia. We have semifinals early on the 19th, so that is 2 days from now.
Now,
and you'll be.
I want to stop you 1 second because I found this out while I was typing up these notes. It is the 19th in Australia, which is actually late night, the 18th for us here in the United States. So it's
like tomorrow night, basically.
Yeah, it's like tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Eastern is when the semifinals will start. So the dates are a little wonky, but that's timey-wimey Australia stuff.
Yes, and that'll be between Darksided versus the Sydney Drop Airs and Masterminds versus Blank Blue, who are all 4 teams I've never really heard of. So, one thing I do want to add, because as we're going to move into the quick play section here, I'm going to read off these scores, but one of the things that we'd like to do next week, because I think we don't have like actual Contenders matches to watch. We may watch a couple of Open Division ones because we're reaching the end of that, but I also do want to, as we have kind of revisited some of the Korean stuff here and there and some of the EU stuff, I want to dive into some like South America, South Pacific, China, Australia, stuff like that. So next week, we're going to hop into these matches. First off is in South America, Brazil Gaming House takes the finals 3-1 over Isers Gaming. And then Pacific Detonator Korea 4-2's the team that we know, Blank Esports. Korea, we saw O2 Ardent's winning streak come to an end with a pretty tough 4-0 loss against
Brutal
X6
end.
Gaming, who've been looking really, really solid. And then lastly, in China, we see LGD Gaming fall to the Korean roster of Lucky Future Zenith.
And just one
We'll
quick
be covering
thing.
those and the Australian matches, hopefully. Probably just the finals of all of these on next week.
Yep. And just one quick thing. The Icarus Gaming, that's formerly Karma, the Brazilian World Cup team that fell in the finals.
I thought BGH was the World Cup team.
I'm pretty sure that because it was Karma, because Karma came up and played the Savages in the Season 2 Open Division Finals and lost to them, and then they got picked up, and I'm pretty sure it was Icarus Gaming that picked up Karma.
Okay. Well, I'm not super familiar with it. Maybe it was like the first time versus the second year or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been. But that's going to move us down into the matches that we were able to watch and keep up with. So first off, we're going to go into the EU semifinals match 1. We had British Hurricane versus CIS Hope. So Kyle, take it away.
Cool. So I just realized all of our scores on here are completely wrong and I messed up. So I'll just kind of go off of map by map. We started off in Oasis. CIS Hope took that. First off, British Hurricane took Gardens, 199, super close. University went to CIS Hope, 199, and then City Center went to CIS Hope, 199. So very, very, very close matches between these teams. Craggy had like one of the coolest Zarya plays I saw. They got Graviton, and then there was a Diva bomb that came in, that Diva self-destruct, and he managed to bubble just the perfect 2 people that would have gotten hit by it, got a bunch of charge off of it, and saved literally his entire team after their Reinhardt shield got cracked or shattered. So that was just a super clutch play. Chow, on the other hand, has gotten lots of really good bigger bang combos, got some 3Ks here and there. One of the interesting things is on Hollywood, British Hurricane are kind of like get stifled by CIS Hope a lot, and then all it takes is fusions to get like a huge shatter, and then it's that like every single time they were able to complete, it was like, okay, they're stuck, big shatter, okay, they got it, move on. And it was just kind of interesting to see how impactful Fusion's Reinhardt play is to this whole team. And I'll talk about these teams a little bit more, but I guess one of the things I want to talk about is CIS Hope, because they're a team that, I mean, we didn't see much more of because this is where they got eliminated. Unfixed is known for being a Zarya player from way back on E-United and Reunited and whatever team they were on even before that. So he's been playing Zarya since beta, so he's looked really, really solid on that, but his other heroes have been really not as good. I feel like he's just like an old school off-tank player and not really much of a new school DPS player. But Kenzie's been doing some pretty good work on the opposite side of that to kind of try to even that out. Hollywood, Horizon, and Dorado went all over to British Hurricane. So after CIS Hope got that first match win, or that first map win on Oasis, the next 3 were just kind of steamrolled by British Hurricane. And that's all I have for this.
All right. So moving down to the next one where I fixed the scores for you. We had the semifinals match 2 of the day. That was Angry Titans versus Giganti. And that ended with Angry Titans taking out... Wait, no, that's not correct.
It should be backwards.
Yep,
yeah.
It's backwards. Angry Titans lost to Giganti 3-0. Kyle, take away your analysis.
So, it's like tank team versus tank team, except Angry Titans exclusively ran tanks. And when they didn't, they kind of got wrecked. So one of the things I pointed out here is that Giganti is the worst tank team, but the better dive team. And which is a very interesting thing because tanks is very popular in EU, as we have seen previously. So there are, of course, certain matches where, like Lighthouse, for example, they ran tanks into tanks, and Angry Titans just ran it slightly better and won that out on Ilios. Ruins and Manuel went over to the side of Giganti. Numbani, Giganti 5-4. Hanamura, Giganti 4-3. So Davin has been looking really, really solid on the Giganti side. On the Zarya, he had a lot of really good plays along with RCK, who was on that Diva, so they had a lot of good coordination with the bigger bang combos. Nil, who is known for kind of being their hog Junkrat kind of one trick, had a really good soldier. On Hanamura, he was able to kind of control that back high ground, looking over the whole point. Meanwhile, Davin was Tracer on point, and it was just this really good combination of Davin is a nutty Tracer, so you have to try to focus him, but at the same time, you're getting completely shelled out by the soldier. So that was part of the reason they were able to take that so strongly and cap it the second time around. One of the things I did want to point out is we have known Urki to be a really good Roadhog. And there were also lots of times where he was getting kills, but no one else on his team was. So it kind of harkens back to old Roadhog when it was like, one-shot comboing anything you hooked, and he was kind of trying to carry as best as possible. But overall, the whole team didn't really focus around him as much. Part of that was Letty, who is really good on the Lucio, but when they try to run him on the Mercy, just continually gets, caught out of position, killed early. His what was this? Oh yeah, when his he was playing Ana on Hanamura, and he had some really good bio nades on Hanamura defense, but the problem was if he ever missed a sleep dart, he was roasted by LH Cloudy, who was always on him with that Winston. So I think that Angry Titans, maybe if they're going to stay together, they probably should try to work really, like they have a good tank combo, but you cannot only run tanks here. As we saw Giganti have to play a little bit of dive, and they were just the better dive team, and that's why they won. So that's what I got for that one.
And fantastic. So that's going to take us over to the NA semifinals match 1, which was Toronto's Esports versus Envision, and Toronto takes this one 3-1. So take it away, Kyle.
So, starting off in Nepal, we saw Toronto Esports take this one. They took Shrine 100-83, and then Village went to the side of Envision 100-83, and then Sanctum went back to Toronto 100-42. Numbani, Envision took it 5-4 in extra rounds. Horizon was a 3-3. Junkertown was Horizon was a 3-3 draw, which put us still into map 5, but it then just became like to 3, I guess. The whole draw thing in the best of 5 gets a little kind of funky, but you literally just keep playing it as a best of 5. Just ignore the draw. And then Junkertown went to Toronto, and then Oasis, the tiebreaker, went to Toronto. One of the things on Toronto is that funny thing is they didn't run Junkrat on Horizon first on their defense. Got completely annihilated on their first run. Envision just walked in and killed them with tanks. Envision has been a team known to play tanks really, really well. Crimzo absolutely loves that Moira. He's got Buds on the Hog, and Jaro, I think, has a really, really, really good. I think he was playing the Zarya here. Yep. So then they got wrecked their first defense, and then the second time, they're like, maybe we should run this. Ran the Junkrat, and then kind of completely stuffed out Envision and got that hold on 3 points, or to force it to draw. And yeah, we go ahead with this.
There was a spot where Toronto on the second their second defense, I believe it was, they set up the Junkrat mine down in the bottom right room, hid it away, and Envision went through the room, and literally one Junkrat mine almost completely topped off the Riptire. He got a Riptire in like 30 seconds. Like the first 30 seconds of the round, Riptire. And it was just like the perfect placement. I don't know if he hit it under a table. They didn't show exactly where he had it, but they didn't catch it other than when it exploded.
Yeah, and then on the other side of Envision, kind of going back to the earlier map on Nepal, specifically Sanctum. So Sanctum, we've known to be a not like the best Widow map, but like for Nepal, it's the best stage of it. And who has a really good Widow? Well, someone asked me in the Discord yesterday who the best American Contenders Widow is, and I said without a doubt in my mind, it's Buds. Uh, so he was switching on that Widow, and obviously, like, Toronto knew this. They knew that Buds was going to run this, and so what did they do? They immediately dove onto him. But then Envision, in this weird, like, I knew what you knew what we were going to run, waited for Toronto to dive in, and then counter dived. Buds pulled back a little bit out to the main door, to the kind of going outside towards the spawn. Envision kind of crushed the dive, and then they took it and were able to actually no, they didn't even win Sanctum, but it looked a lot better from them. And then moving on to Numbani, Jaru. I have a joke in here that he gets 9 blades per AKM blade. The dude is so good. I think like next to Who Are You, he's probably the second best in terms of charging dragon blades in all of Contenders. Well, I guess all of Contenders NA. And he got like so many dash resets. He knows exactly where to be. He has really good coordination with his team on calling low targets, and he'll go in there dash, 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 dash. Whole team's dead because they all got like super duper low.
And literally every single team fight at the beginning of the engagement, on their first attack, he had a Dragon Blade for like the entirety of the map. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen a Genji do. Every fight he was just blading the back line of Toronto Esports. It was nuts.
Yeah, and then on Horizon, the Ambulance, as we mentioned before from Envision, took first in like a heartbeat. And then they had a great Bigger Bang combo to take second with I think they had like 5.5 minutes left. They did like the kind of take a little bit to get first. So like they don't like, it's not 2 fights, but it's like a fight and a half to get first. And then they take usually like an eco fight to go in and get as many ults as possible, go in with 6, wipe it. And so they've done that consistently and have looked like a really, really solid team on Horizon. And one of the other things is that on the second attacks, Buds went to Widow, got 2 really, really key picks on that second attack to be able to capture the first point. Then we'll move on to Junkertown, which is like, this was one of my favorite things to see. So I don't think I've seen this thus far until we got to the LAN semifinals. But my God, Shu is a better Widow. Shu, the Zenyatta player for Toronto Esports, is a better Widow that I think I've ever seen in any of Contenders. I think maybe it's around the same area as Buds, but I feel like in just this very limited sample size, it is significantly better than Buds' Widow. And he's a Zen player. So, and like Buds is been touted as like the best Widow, even by me. And he gets like the best of Buds at least 3 separate times on like the first 2 points before he even switches. So we saw it here. I think we saw it in the finals as well. And it is just an absolute joy to see because I love Junkertown for seeing what your flex support truly flexes to. Sometimes they're on the Bastion, sometimes they're on the Roadhog. But in Shu's case, he's just clicking everyone's head. And then another, like, one of the coolest plays I ever saw was the thread the needle that Guardian had. So he goes from right outside the first point where those doors are, lobs it through the right-hand window, and then back on that little ledge where you always see the Orisa sitting, was the Orisa and like 2 other players. And he gets the D.Va self-destruct to land literally like maybe 7 inches inside of the Orisa shield and gets a 3K off of just like, there wasn't even to like start the engagement. It wasn't like, they were just kind of like regrouping and just like, I'll throw this in here and gets a 3K. Like, okay, cool. Well, that's that point done too. So that was just an incredible play. And then Nero on that same attack, no, on their defense actually, had really, really good Dragon Blades. 2 in a row actually to hold Junkertown third to not give Envision the chance to go into second rounds there.
Yeah. And we got to see something that we've already seen happen in Contenders on Junkertown, and that is Battle Mercy, bloodthirsty, just going after it. There's a moment on the Envision defense, their first defense, where Fire pops Valk and is trying to heal everybody up, and Shoes kind of tucked away in that side room upstairs, and instead of flying away because he can just fly, he's in Valk. No, he flies right into the room and just unloads on Shu and deletes him. Like, it was great. I love seeing Battle Mercies. We've seen Cruz do it, and now we got Fire doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah. And then moving on to Oasis. Oh, actually, no. Last little bit of thing. One of the main reasons that Toronto took Junkertown was because they got all the way to 3. They were able to get that third point, which is usually not super easy to get. But the problem is they let kind of Dalton soon it in there and sneak the payload all the way to the end after I'm pretty sure Envision won that team fight. So it's like it I don't want to call it like a straight up C9, but it was just like a complete neglection. I don't know, that's probably not a word. Complete like lack of seeing that there is someone on the payload pushing the payload. You got to have like the diva on there at all times. Usually we see the diva or like as ulting Zen needs to stay on the payload at all times if it gets to that like 3-meter kind of part. But then because of the draw, we ended up going into the 5th map, Oasis, and we saw some really good EMP usage on University. So they waited until, because Envision ran a Junkrat on University, which I have a note here that Jar's Junkrat was really, really solid. But instead of EMPing in that little side room where I think it's like a mini health pack or it could be a mega, the one room where it's kind of up the stairs overlooking the point, it's this little closed-in space where Junkrat can kill everything. So instead of like going in there, EMPing, getting killed by the Junkrat, you already lost. He waited until they came right out the door to contest the point, then EMP'd, and then were able to win the team fight off of that. So it's really kind of little micro plays that really helped do well here for Toronto, despite Jar's Junkrat being so good.
And with how good Jaru's Junkrat was being played, it was phenomenal. There's actually a moment on University where he couldn't have played Junkrat any better. Like, I think he got like 2 or 3. He forced people off of the point. The problem was everyone else on his team was dead. Like, he took out half of Toronto Esports, but they couldn't take the point back because there just was literally no one there to help him recontest, which was kind of sad because of how well his Junkrat was being played at that time. To just watch it end in nothing, like, it kind of sucked.
Yeah. And then lastly, my last note for this is Dalton, who I don't know if I think it's more so apparent in the finals match, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Dalton definitely didn't seem like his normal Dalton-y self as often in this lane environment. So I'm thinking that he maybe has a little bit of lane jitter issues. It happens, whatever's. Hopefully he gets more experience to kind of work through that. But he did have one incredible moment on City Center where he killed both supports by himself in 2 separate team fights. So I think that really just Dalton was definitely the better tracer in this matchup, and he was really able to take advantage of that. And that was one of the main reasons they were able to get this 3-1 win.
Oh yeah. And just to elaborate a little bit more on Dalton, there's a moment where Crimzo wrecks Nero, and Dalton comes in, avenges Nero's death, takes out Crimzo, and then turns around and throws his pulse bomb right onto Fire. I believe Fire was starting to Guardian Angel away because he caught him midair, and that's one of the two plays that you Kyle was talking about. It was the perfect backline assault by Dalton to get both of the supports and kind of say, hey Nero, I got your back. It was great to watch. I love watching the DPS line of Toronto Esports, and we get to see a little bit more of it a little bit later. So with that, that's going to take us out of all of our semifinals matches and down into the EU finals where we had
Optic
Oh,
Fusion.
I skipped a match. Man, I'm jumping way ahead here. Semifinals match number 2, Optic Academy versus Fusion University. And this goes the way of Fusion University 3-1. So, Kyle, what do you got?
I got Who Are You? That's what I got. Dude is nuts. He was really not that great when we saw him the first couple of regular season matches. Really kind of out of sync with the team. Probably was due to the whole fact that he's playing from Korea on like 150 millisecond, 200 millisecond ping, which is not easy to do. And then here he just kind of awoke and became this like player that he was touted for being back in Korea on the LAN environment. So the guy has LAN experience, and he's showing it here, specifically on Ilios, which was the first map. Dude went off and just tore apart everyone. And this was the third stage in this map. So Fusion took Lighthouse, then Optic took Ruins, and then came along, and he's like, I really don't want to not win this map, so I'm just gonna kill everyone. Is that cool? And everyone on Fusion was like, yeah, sure, cool, go ahead. And he just killed everyone. Here he was on Tracer, which is not his hero, right? He's not known for being he's known for being the Genji god. But we have seen him play quite a lot of Tracer as well. Now that Sombra has been in a place where Zachary has been playing Sombra quite a lot, you need to have someone to cover that Tracer, at least in this previous Dive Sombracer meta. And he definitely did what he needed to do here. On the opposite side, Keller ran McCree on Lighthouse and got completely dove on every single time. Maybe got a pick once or twice, but just really got stifled by the dive of Fusion University on Lighthouse. But then as soon as he went to Widow on Ruins, he kind of just decimated the whole team and did really, really solid there, which was always really good.
Oh yeah, he was clearly the winner of the Widow 1v1 against Zachary on Ruin. It was Zachary could not pop his head out without getting his head popped off. Keller just was on point for his Widow play on that map. It was awesome.
Yes, and then moving on to Hollywood, Sharp is another player who was, I think it hit Sharp a little bit more than it did Dalton, at least specifically in the semifinals matches, is the difference on playing Tracer on LAN versus playing online, and also playing, Sharp lives in Sweden, I think, because he's 16 and still lives at home, which is expected. So there's a significant difference here in his performance. We saw him not as impactful as he can be, and we have seen from him. But that is not to say he didn't have some absolutely solid moments here and there, like the 3K pulse bomb in Hollywood A. Fusion University like to play around that cafe, like to kind of play tucked away with the Orisa shield kind of poking out, maintaining a little bit of presence on the point, kind of watching all the exits. But if you get enough Optic teammates to kind of go in there and cause some disruption, Sharp can build a pulse bomb pretty quickly because they're allowing a run of tanks. on the side of Fusion, builds that pulse bomb, throws it in there. Everyone's kind of clumped up, gets a 3K. There's not much you can do against that in that point. So then they kind of just cap it out. But I think this is where Keller went on the Pharah to try to cap it out first. And Kraken Lacken, who was on the Roadhog, had some. It's just one of my favorite things to see. There was a great moment. I think it was Surefour on Hog a couple of weeks ago in Overwatch League, where he hooked the Pharah out of midair. Like, that is one of my favorite things to see, because it's just this extra little bit, especially if it's like a max range hook, which that's what Kraken Lacken did here when the Pharah was over top of that kind of central house on Hollywood A. Got the super duper long range hook and then got the kill off. It was always really fun to see. And then Zachary running the Junkrat got a 3K tire and then 2 kills after that on their Hollywood defense. I think this was before Sharp got the pulse bomb kill. So that was Hollywood. Really, really good to see. One last thing on Hollywood. Secret Agent, who are you? There's a clip on there. I forget where I saw it, but there's a clip around Twitch that's Secret Agent, who are you? Where he's literally just sitting waiting inside like the kind of the spaceship area on Hollywood right before right after the second point doors. Where there, I think there was a Widow and a Mercy, and he just went dash, 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 kills everyone there. There's even like a cool, he's on Reflect, and then one of the the intricacies of Genji is that his wall run cancels the Reflect. So if you want to do more damage, but you're reflecting, you can just hit wall run to cancel that real quick, and then get your shurikens off in a dash. So that's just one of those things that you can tell this guy has been playing this hero at a high level for months and months and months, and it's just his understanding of the hero is so beyond anything that we normally see, except in your really, really good Overwatch League players. Moving on to Horizon. One of the things I did want to talk about is that Optic did take Hollywood, and that was their one that they got. But then Ilios, Horizon, and Dorado was the 3 that Fusion got. Again, we've seen, I forget who the team was last time, but we've seen lots of teams they do the Horizon defense on the top, left side on the high ground. And then you got the Tracer or the Sombra kind of poke in and kind of get presence. And then you send the D.Va to shoot the Tracer or the Sombra and kind of keep them from getting a tick. Except in this case, Optic just let him take it. 2 full ticks. Which is kind of there's no reason why you should give up 2 ticks on that first point unless your team is wiped. So that was kind of a questionable play. But then one of the other things is Elk. So I think Elk is one of my favorite players to watch it's particularly this last weekend, because he runs Ana a lot and he runs it well. He runs it on defense on Horizon, which is not uncommon, but he also runs it on attack, which is not as common. You usually see Ana on Hanamura second too, or Hanamura defense on first, because there's just ways to play that. But Elk has this understanding of where to run Ana and where to put the bio nades and where to get the good sleep darts, and just tore apart the front line. If they were perched up in that corner, you throw a bio nade on them, everyone's low, no one can heal, your Orisa and your Hog are kind of just screwed, you kill them. Great plays from him, great sleep darts as well. The dude is just really, really good at Horizon Ana. Lastly, on Dorado, one of the things, Gray has made a kind of big mistake on the Transcendence on Dorado A defense. Use it aggressively. And one of the things, normally that kind of works okay, unless you are playing against Who Are You on Genji, and he has been farming up some ult charge from your front line. Because then what does he do? Well, okay, Transcendence was used. He knows that. He didn't have to even bait it out if Gray used it really aggressively. And then he just kills everyone, and then they cap A, and then they kind of push it all the way to second, and then they hold before that, and then they win. So, dear Zenyatta players, if you're playing against Who Are You, save your Transcendence for when he pops his Dragon Blade, or else he will destroy your whole team.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Who we've seen Who Are You play with Ping, and he was scary.
Yeah.
But now we've seen him play on the LAN client where it's 0 ping, and it's downright frightening. Like, Blevins is going to give me a hard time about this, but we got to see Flower do some pretty amazing things on the LAN client. Who Are You is better on the LAN client. I when Who Are You turns 18 and he lands on an Overwatch League team, which we know is going to happen. There's no way that he's getting passed up. Pay this man, because he will be your all-star. This is the kind of player you build teams around. You figure out the type of tanks that he likes to play with, the type of supports he likes to play with, and you base your team off of Who Are You. He is the LeBron James of contenders.
And they did exactly that too, which was one of my favorite things. Is you could see, like, previously, they kind of Fusion University kind of allocated their resources equally to both of their front line, or both of their DPS. We have seen that, like, there's been some critiques onto Krakenlaken and Beast Halo, who are not like the most flashy and most ridiculous frontline duo, but that is because they are doing what they need to do in clearing space and causing vulnerabilities for the DPS to take advantage of.
Yep.
Same with the supports also. Yes, Alarm gets lots of amazing kills on his own, but he also works really well at protecting the frontline DPS members. But more so, these two matches they played, we saw way more resources put towards Who Are You, because the team recognized, okay, Who Are You is like feeling it. He is like just hot. He knows, he's like, okay, I'm on a roll. Just give me everything. So we saw lots of nano boosts go onto him without even...
With no blade.
Before he had blade. Yes, to get that blade charged up, so he would get one every single fight and just destroy everyone with it. So, like, you could kind of see that, like, Fusion is smart in that, like, they recognize that he is on a run, and then they needed to support him as best as possible. Yes, and they worked out super well for them, both here and in the final.
Oh yeah, 100%. Some of his, I guess you could say, just flashiest plays were his just nano boosted shurikens and quick melees. Yeah. Like, you put a nano boost on a Genji and you're expecting to see a blade. No, you put a nano boost on Who Are You when he's at 30% and he ends the nano boost with a blade ready for the next team fight. Like, they played it perfectly, and it's what gave them a lot of their wins. So we are now going to move into the EU finals. Gonna come out of that, we're gonna go over to Giganti versus the British Hurricane, and the British Hurricane take this in a 7 drag out match. You got it 4-3. So Kyle, what you got?
Okay, we're gonna start off. We're gonna go map at a time here. I'm gonna try not to get too far ahead of myself. I'm at this point, I reimagined how I would be doing my notes, and I'm going to try to fix this a little bit better in the meantime, to try to keep it map by map instead of team by team. So we will talk about Nepal first. I have one note on each. First off, on Shrine, Giganti played it incredibly well by running tanks and keeping British Hurricane off the point entirely. They just maintained presence. I think they got one team fight loss, retook it, bullied him off the point again. And they won Shrine. But then on the flip side of that, British Hurricane on Sanctum and Village have been running a lot of interesting 3 DPS. So we know British Hurricane as a team that can run lots of they run tanks well, but so does Giganti. And so what do? Okay, well, we have Hafakul who can run like lots of different things. So they ran a Genji Tracer Sombra on Sanctum, and then a Soldier Tracer Sombra on Village. Or it may have been, I think it was the opposite. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but they ran those 2 combos on 2 separate maps. It had to be the Soldier on Sanctum, because that's the way you play Soldier on Sanctum. But they ran that, and it worked out well for them. They were able to take Sanctum 100 to 43 and Village 100 to 11%. So that was pretty, handed on their end. And then Numbani, they were able to take that as well. But one of the interesting things I saw is that Kib, who is a pretty good Genji, not like who are you level, but like pretty good. I think he's like right below. And he was like blading into Transcendence, which was like kind of weird. Like he knew that the trance was out or available at least. Popped blade. I forget who the Gigante main support is, but whatever. He popped Transcendence, and then the blade did nothing. But then British Hurricane just kind of sustained, didn't play overly aggressive. Then as soon as it was down, the Transcendence was down, then they dove in and still won the fight. So it's one of those, like, normally in theory you don't want to just blade into a Transcendence because usually you can bait it out without popping the blade. But in this case, if it works, don't stop doing it, I guess. Moving over to Horizon now. We saw Gigante kind of do their pushback. One of the reasons because of this is Nil, who is known as being kind of a one-trick-ish kind of person on the Hog and Junkrat. I guess it's not really one trick, two trick. But his Junkrat was doing an incredible job of getting those early picks. So you got British Hurricane coming down out of their spawn, running up to try to cap A. Oh, they lost someone. Okay, well, everyone back. All right, coming back again. We're going to try one. Oh, crap, they lost someone. Okay, go back. So he was doing that a lot, which is part of the reason they're able to win that. And also some questionable alt management of Crusade, the Lucio player. They got Gravitoned, lost Reinhardt, and then I think they lost someone else, and then he beats. He drops the sound barrier, like, why? And then they lose that anyway. So it's just like there's some questionable plays, like trying to save it, like, okay, no, now we know we lost one, but we can totally pull this back. Like, you have to win these Horizon fights pretty handedly in order to be able to capture that second point. Another thing that I forget who it was. I don't think it was Kib. Oh yeah, Craggy ran it. Craggy ran the May on first defense. Did nothing. They got completely rolled on their first defense. Second defense, it works better. It had a really good play where they were running the quad tank, I think, was Gigante. And then as they go to leave that little tiny left-hand room where teams kind of hop from, they go from if you're looking from the defender's perspective, they go from the right room into the left room, and then from the left room up the stairs. In that left room, Craig was able to catch out with the May wall just Davin, and they wrecked him, and it did super well. Like, that's exactly what we wanted. You want to separate off one person. But I think in terms of, like, overall, it was probably not played as good as they could have, and that's why they lost that. Junkertown Gigante as well. One of the interesting things is they ran a Bastion, did Gigante, and British Hurricane had this, like, really cerebral play of, like, okay, we see it, like, kind of on the back platform. Let's just run right and then jump right onto it so we don't give them too much line of sight to kill us early. So they kind of just stay out of line of sight and just appear and jump on it. So it was really smart play from them. But it's mostly on the back of RCK doing a lot of really good Diva bombs throughout that, and good team play from Gigante. So they took that. Oh my goodness, I have so many notes on here, but, like, it's their fault for having a 7-map series. So I just, like, there's so much to talk about, but I'll try to get through this as quick as possible. Next we go to Oasis. Craggy out Zarya Davin, got higher ult charge, got ult faster. They won that. Both points. They won Gardens and they won University. Gigante takes Hollywood because LH Cloudy gets some really good shatters to cap first and third. Nil Widow is basically the reason that they're able to hold before second on Hollywood. Half a cool flexed onto the Widow, which is kind of, it's like, oh, cool, he's really flexible. But if you're off the Diva, you kind of lose that extra bit of peel, and your supports can get hit easier. So maybe you want to run Craggy or Kib on that Widow instead in the future. Lastly, and we saw an interesting clip, I think, from either the British Hurricane or London Spitfire's Twitter, in that where literally within, like, 3 or 4 meters. It's where the same spot that British Hurricane got the win on Dorado is the same place where London Spitfire got the win in Stage 1 finals on Dorado. Right before second, kind of coming up that little turn. It was kind of interesting to see that. Partly because Craggy, Kib, and Fusions just kind of like got angry. They just like exploded and they just went off and basically they ran nonstop all the way through second. Almost to the very last point too. So they basically get it 89.5% of the way through the entire map without any contestation. I don't know that word. Any contest from Giganti at all. But then Nil comes with a really good Blade 3K to not let him complete it. But then they are able to hold on second is British Hurricane, and then they win. So EU champions are British Hurricane after a very long 7-map series and lots of notes from me.
And we like lots of notes. That means that it was a great matchup. But that's going to take us into the NA finals. We had Fusion University going off against Toronto Esports. Now, I do have to preface this with saying that me and Kyle both had Toronto winning this.
Yes. I forgot about that. I forgot about our picks.
We both had Toronto winning this. We thought that it was going to go the distance. And Fusion University said, nope, we're going to take this in 5. Fusion University win 4-1 over Toronto Esports. What you got?
2 things. So, like, we knew, and we had stated for quite a while that Nero and Dalton are, like, one of the best DPS combos. I think they were maybe first or second on our duo ranking list. I think they were first. And they just weren't on as much. But they, like, we knew, that's why we thought that they were going to win this, is because they are a great combo. They work incredibly well together, and Toronto Esports as a whole seems way more flexible. We initially critiqued FU on being kind of one tricky on just dive. They ran dive, and they ran it the best. They ran it better than anyone else did, but they pretty much just ran dive. And so when teams were able to find ways to take advantage of that or run things that counter dive, like anti-dive strats, FU got kind of screwed up. And so we thought that maybe Toronto would be able to take advantage of that because they're able to play lots more things. They could play the Widow Junkrat combo like they did on Dorado and did incredibly well on in previous times. But here just doesn't work out as much. Who are you on his Tracer? One of the weird things too, so Toronto Esports kind of just in this finals just like, oh, let's try to run more tanks. Like we watched a couple of those EU games, and those tanks, this EU guys knows what's up. And they played tanks a lot more. And what does that mean when you run tanks against who are you on Tracer? Well, dude can charge a pulse bomb in like 30 seconds. And it's just been killing every single tank. Charging pulse bomb, getting a kill. Charging pulse bomb, getting a kill. Yeah. And then on Lighthouse, I forget, they didn't run tanks, but they did run Nero on McCree, which is good. Like, he did a lot of good work when they were able to not get stifled out, not able to dive the supports as much. But the problem is with this, McCree these days, especially against dive, requires so much like resources allocated to him. You need the constant mercy beam switching between that damage boost into healing because he just gets shelled down so easily. He has no self-sustain at all. You really have to play around the McCree, and it's really hard to do when you're playing against who are you and Zachary, who are both just like, let's kill the McCree a lot. And then you have the Tanks of Fusion University who are like, we don't value our lives at all. We're going to dive on top of this, probably die. But then our DPS is going to come in and save the day. And they did exactly that. And I can't really, blame them for that. If it works, like, yeah, if you die, it's not great. But if it clears space and it allows your DPS to do what they need to do, you're doing your job. Good job. If you were able to take Ilios pretty handedly, they took Ruins, and then they took Lighthouse. Moved on to Hollywood. Another, like, we thought this was going to be fast. Here on Hollywood, this was like a pure team effort. So, like, previously it was like, who are you was like carrying a map on his own, or like Elk, as we'll talk about later, can carry a map on his own, basically. But here it was like every single person split perfectly evenly, getting like, okay, I got 3 kills, and I got 3 kills, I got 3 kills, I got 3 kills. Everyone's like doing exactly their part. And Fusion University full holds Toronto Esports on Hollywood, which is like, it's not very, like, for a team the caliber of Toronto, it's kind of weird to see. No, absolutely not.
If you want to watch something absolutely insane, you have to check out the sorry, Twitch chat just threw me for a loop. I didn't have audio going, I guess, for that one quick second. Check out the Hollywood defense of Fusion University, because it is a thing of beauty. You have to see it. If you're not paying attention to Contenders, go and watch at least that.
Yeah. So that was a pretty well played, well executed defense from Fusion, and they kind of on their attack, I think they took it literally like the first time. They just went in and killed everyone. Which then brought us, yes, like instantaneous, like boom, boom, boom. Okay, that's 3 kills. Okay, that's over. All right, next map. Cool. That was like a 6-second or a 6-minute match total, including like waiting in spawn. Moving on to Horizon, which again, Elk on Horizon. Dude is so good. Like, he understands where to be, where to throw bio nades, and where to do work. His Ana is so like, it reminds me of like Jaehong's Ana on what was it? I think Numbani first, or like Chips is on Numbani first as well. Just like, he understands where to be all the time, where to throw the bio nades, where to get the sleep darts. No one can touch him. So that was great from him, as well as the whole team having really good coordination in Toronto was able to take out like 2 ticks, and like Fusion lost a bunch of people, but then they kind of waited behind that little hydroponics area, waited, came back in, re-engaged, used no ults of their own, baited out both support ults from Shu and Cruz, baited out the Valkyrie, baited out the Transcendence. Lost the fight, yes, which is fine. But what they did is now they stopped the snowball. So Toronto would have been able to engage on second with both support ults and like 2 or 3 other ults, and they probably would have won that. But what did Fusion do? They, okay, well, we're going to bait out as many ults as possible, completely stopping the snowball, and then I'm pretty sure they were able to hold off just all of that. They held it for like 5 minutes. One of the things I did notice is that Nero and Dalton just aren't getting enough space to get kills. I don't know if it's necessarily like the tanks maybe aren't doing their job. Maybe Dalton and Nero just aren't used to the LAN client, or maybe it's nerves, whatever it is. There is definitely like a noticeable difference in the performance of Nero and Dalton from main season online to post-season LAN.
And that's something that's very strange, because we had Toronto's tank line as like one of the best tank line for creating space, and they did not do it in the finals. They didn't, and it was a shock, a huge shock.
Yeah. And then my last note here on Horizon is that I think to be able to cap second, they had a main advantage, did Toronto, and Transcendence up, and then Zachary was running his no, maybe this was on attack. It might have been on attack where Zachary was running the McCree, got a Deadeye, and then they got zoned off for a second. But what they could have done is just pop Transcendence, and we have seen this work from Jonak, which obviously like no one in Contenders is Jonak, but still like you can try to imitate, and it would probably have worked out. You pop Transcendence, the Zenyatta kind of goes in front of the McCree and doesn't give any line of sight to the other players. But then I think that's how they let Fusion cap out second. It's just they kind of got zoned off, and they had solutions to getting zoned off, but instead they decided to just step off the point and let them take it. So quite a lot of misplays here and there for Toronto in order to let this go 3-1 or 3-0 in their favor for these 3 maps. Moving on to Junkertown. I'll talk about Fusion first, because I want to go into another escapade here with Toronto. Oh yeah, so the previous fight, he had a blade. Did Who Are You? Baited out the Transcendence with it, didn't do too much. And then, as we talked about previously, Elk is like, cool, well, let's get Who Are You blade as many times as possible, because he's just hitting everyone with him. And he just gets him the nano boost, builds 60%. So he got his blade, got a couple, bits of damage afterwards, built up to 40%. Fight's over, you lost. They come back, give him the nano, then he gets blade again. Transcendence is nowhere near being up again. Gets the full team wipe, whole team's dead. But this map, this is the one that Toronto got in this 4-1 series. Why did they get that? I mentioned previously that Shu's Widow is incredible, and seeing him on this Widow on their attack is probably like one of the best plays I have seen. The best like consistent like headshot. Just great like 2 minutes of Overwatch that I have seen in Contenders thus far. So if you're gonna watch 2 maps out of all of Contenders, Fusion University's Hollywood defense, Toronto Esports' Junkertown attack. Just so amazingly well played. Just so much skill coming from him. Fusion didn't really respect it as much as they should have. They tried to counter as best as possible, but what can you do against Shu, I guess, in this particular case?
Oh, yeah.
So it goes 2-2, but in favor of Toronto, pushing it 2. And now I realize that like my note here says, of course it comes down to Oasis City Center for the millionth time. For those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with Fusion University
or Fusion in general,
both teams have this like curse/blessing of it always comes down to City Center on Oasis for them to get the win. Toronto Esports took Gardens. Okay, maybe Toronto's able to, this is my thought at this point. It's okay, maybe they can bring it to more. I'd kind of like to see a bigger series here. University goes to Fusion. Okay, that makes sense. I think this is where Elk gets the really clutch sound barrier. right, on University, or is it on City Center?
I believe it was University.
Okay. So yes, Elk has a incredibly clutch sound barrier to give them the win on there. Saves his entire team and gets a boop kill after, which is always good to see. You have a note on this?
Yes. Since we're talking about boop kills, one of the most insane boop kills I've ever seen comes from my favorite Battle Mercy, Cruz from over on Toronto Esports. Um, on Gardens, Cruz wall rides up the right hand side of the inside of the Gardens and gets up to the high ground and comes off of the corner with a perfect boop onto Alarm, shooting him off the back of the map. Like the wall ride was the perfect wall ride to put him in position for this. And I used to play Lucio, and that was my favorite thing to do. Now I play tanks, and like watching tank play is fun. But as soon as I saw that, I threw my hands up and was like, "Boop! Yes!" Like it was great. You got to see it. I'll clip it and I'll throw it up on Twitter after the show's over. But Lucio boops for days in this matchup. It's awesome.
Yes, and then lastly, it comes down to City Center. The last, I think it was every single tournament that uh, Fusion University have won with the Beat Invitational and the Pit. I think both of them came down to Oasis. Both of them came down to City Center. Um, both of them, I think they all came also down to 199. If not, it was somewhat close. But this one came down to 199. Like, just so tense of a moment. And then who comes out clutch? Well, not who are you, who's been doing everything he can and carrying this team throughout the entirety of these playoffs. Well, Zachary is like, hey, like I was doing, good work throughout all of normal season. I'm still doing my job here. Gets a 3K, closes it out. Fusion University wins it. Big cheers for them. Yeah.
Oh, I got two notes on Zachary here. I'm gonna take it back to Garden for just one quick second because there's a moment where Zachary's playing McCree, and we don't get to see a whole lot of McCree played a lot of the times. And like you said, it takes a lot of resources to have a solid McCree play. There's a moment where Nero is on the Sombra. He's got EMP. He's about to just wreck Fusion University outside of the point. And he comes out of stealth. He's getting ready to drop EMP. Zachary spins around and hits him with a flashbang. Pops 2 in the head. Boom, dead. No EMP. Wiped off of the board. The quick reflexes of Zachary on his McCree is phenomenal. You brought up the 3K that saved everybody. This just solidifies. We said it in the regular season. Fusion University are the kings of Oasis. The absolute kings. Like, if they take you to Oasis, you're taking the L. It's guaranteed. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. You're gonna think you have it. You're gonna be like, "Oh my god, guys, we're so close. We can do this. We can do this." And then Fusion's like, "Nah, bro. Do you not know what happens every time you take us to Oasis? Like, crush."
And with Fusion University beating out Toronto, that gave us the Atlantic Showdown, which was the winners of EU versus the winners of NA. So we had the British Hurricane going up against the Fusion University, and unfortunately EU took this. British Hurricane win 3-1 in their absolutely tanky meta coming over from the other side of the pond. So Kyle, take us away.
So you know how I was talking about earlier, like why we thought Toronto was going to take it because they're more diverse and they can play lots of comps and they can do Widow Junker really well. They can do lots of other things. Well, we talked about Fusion also. Like they kind of only run dive. They're not really great at other things. Toronto showed tanks. Fusion didn't. British Hurricane showed tanks. They're really good at tanks. They run it better than anyone else. Like, and there's like amazing tank teams, like Angry Titans and Giganti in EU. And they ran it better than them. So British Hurricane understand how to run tank play. And that was the reason that Fusion lost, is because they are a phenomenal dive team. They run dive better than anyone else. They're like the Boston of contenders. They just run dive amazingly, but their ability to adapt or lack thereof is their downfall here. They ran Widow versus tanks on Ilios and didn't do much. And what did British Hurricane do? Destroy Alarm every single time on, I think it was
Yes.
as well as Funny Astro getting the 2K boop. The specifically Fusions and Half a Cool and Kib were all just on top of Alarm every single time. I'm gonna run to the bathroom while you give this your point as well.
Yep. Kib absolutely had his sights set on Alarm. Alarm would come out of spawn, and by the time he re-engaged, Kib was already hunting him down. I think we saw Kib specifically look for Alarm like 5 or 6 times, and each time it ended in Alarm dying to the hands of Kib. It was depressing, being from NA. Just watching how brutal the tank line of British Hurricane was treating Fusion University. And mind you, me and Kyle have been following Fusion University since the BEAT Invitational and the Pit Invitational, and just being so hyped for this team. And then they go in, and now mind you, this is a team that is only lost to Envision one time, and they turned it around and they took out Envision. Just seeing how much they weren't ready for the tank line of British Hurricane was a little disheartening. But yeah, Kib hunting Alarm all of it was awesome.
Yes. So we saw British Hurricane take Ilios because Fusion University won well, I believe, actually. But then they took Lighthouse and Ruins and British Hurricane. Ruins was like super duper one-sided. My note here that like Widow versus tanks did nothing, and they kept running it. And what did I think 2 separate times? I think it was Lighthouse and Ruins. British Hurricane did the hilarious like, all right, we come out of spawn. We're just gonna wait in this wait in this room, just hang out. And then Fusion's like, what? Where are they? We're like here on point, and they're not here. What are they doing? And you can just see their outlines just like waiting in this little room. And then the point unlocks 3, 2, right out, go, 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 go. And everyone's on point, bullies them off with all their tanks. Fusion's like, okay, well, we're all dead. They have control of the point. Let's try to push into this giant, pile of meat getting constantly healed by Moira. Oh, wait, we can't. Okay, they've won.
Yeah, the tank dive was real with British Hurricane, because that's literally what it was. It was, as soon as they called, every tank moved in sync and flawlessly. Like, it was insane to watch. It really was.
And so that goes Ilios to British Hurricane. Moving on to Nimbani. And here we get to see some funny stuff. There is, I call it a train wreck here, but it wasn't necessarily a train wreck, but it kind of was. Because like we saw on Route 66, really early in Overwatch, teams would hide in the train right outside of the attacker spawn, dive out as soon as they got on the payload, and completely destroy them. So what does British Hurricane do? Basically that, but like, instead they go to the little tiny room, right kind of where that first bus is, and just wait. And then as soon as Fusion comes out, they get spotted out. They like see it, and then they still get completely wrecked. British Hurricane just destroys them. I think Fusions gets a 4K because Fusion University tries to attack into that and just does not work. By the way, I really feel for the casters in this, because they had to cast Fusion versus Fusions. It was like the old IDDQD, the team, versus the old IDDQD, the person matches.
There was definitely times where they would say Fusions, and I'm looking at Fusion University players like, what are they talking about? I don't see anything. It's like, oh crap, the tank, not the team. Yeah.
It's like Fusions has their shadow. I'm like, there's not even a Reinhardt on the Philly Fusion. Oh, the player. Okay. And then on Numbani, even as like even despite these amazing plays from Elk, who killed both supports as Ana on Numbani last, they still kind of got killed. And then one of the points I did bring up, I think Who Are You brings up the Doomfist to try to stall out and gets like a couple of kills. I'm like, and I remember that like Who Are You used to play as Doomfist quite a bit, and he did like a lot of work in the early days, like when this team was still pretty new. They were like he ran Doomfist quite often and destroyed people. Who's Doomfist good against? Well, he's good at one-shotting Reinhardts and tanks and stuff. Well, so why didn't we see more of that? Was kind of the question I had throughout all of that. And then we go to Horizon, and I've talked to death this point of Fusion University on Horizon, and they won it 4-3 because of Velk. One of the key plays I have on here, and this was the thing that the casters did not notice, but I'm always like really keen on like Reinhardt dropping ult. You hear hammer, and then Reinhardt die as Fusion brings up his hammer, brings it down, and then gets, I think, a Bionade and then a left click, just destroys the Reinhardt. No shatter comes out. Elk saves the whole team. Congratulations, you've like saved the day. One of the other things on Horizon is Kib has been playing lots and lots of Roadhog, and Who Are You on both the Tracer and the Genji kind of got stifled a lot by Kib here. So Kib has a pretty good understanding of like where Genjis are going to be. He's a good Genji himself, but he's got a really good understanding of how to play Roadhog against Genjis and Tracers, and continually just destroys Who Are You here. I think one of my points on why Fusion didn't win this match is because they clearly did not prepare much against Quad Tank. And I think that like Quad Tank is beatable, but it requires lots of preparation and kind of it requires you to completely change the way you play your game. Fusion was practicing against Dive for all of NA stuff because no one really runs tanks too much. So if you spend all your time like, okay, we're gonna probably play, for sure they played Envision. They knew that was going to happen, so they're like, okay, we're going to play Envision. We've prepared against Envision. We're going to do that. And then, or no, I guess they prepared against Toronto and Optic. They knew they were going to beat Optic. They know how to beat Optic, and then they thought, okay, we're probably going to play against Envision or Toronto. We know how to beat Envision. We've done it before. We'll practice on beating Toronto, and they showed that. They know how to do that in their finals, and they won that, but it does not look like they prepared against how to play against Tank. I would assume they probably didn't care that much about this show match. You get no money from it. It's all just kind of bragging rights or whatever. It's just like it kind of comes clear that like they had bigger fish to fry, I guess.
Yeah, they worried more about the money match than the bragging match. But for the British Hurricane on point A, their first attack, we saw them do the let's go outside to no man's land where no one ever goes and come around through the airlock out the top. And they come through, they drop down, and they go to the point. And it's like Fusion University didn't even attempt to defend point A at that point. Like they tried rotating around, but it was like point A was over before Fusion University even knew that it was being taken. Like it was super weird to watch them just like nonchalantly turn around and say, "Oh, everyone's already behind us." It was kind of disappointing, actually.
Yeah, and then what are the other points? So in the end, Fusion University takes this 4-3. It was two things. First off, or three things really. Elk being great at Ana, as he is always on this. Zachary on McCree, I think it was the attack switch again. The dude is just doing work. And one of the things that like I mentioned previously with the Genji deflect cancel with the wall climb, Zachary kind of did the understanding of McCree play as well. It's not as high skill cap, but it's still like it requires a certain like skill of player to be able to realize that your Deadeye doesn't always need to be used to get a bunch of kills with, because usually like you can't, because teams are really good at playing against that and playing around it, not giving you line of sight. So what does he do? He uses boom, 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 boom. 6 shots. rolls 6 more shots. Now he's got to reload. What does he do? Hit Q, hit right click, cancels it. After Deadeye, you get a full new mag, basically. You get all your ammo back. So he gets like 18 shots in a row, boom, 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 and just destroys the whole team that way. So it's just another one of those like cool, like, oh, cool, he did that thing that I knew you could do, but I didn't see too much of in other pro play and stuff like that. It's just I love seeing these kind of like interesting plays like that. Lastly, I don't know what happened with the British Hurricane here. They didn't use ults that well at all, and they didn't keep them that well. And even when they did use them, they kind of just didn't do anything off them. At one point, they had like 6 ults, went in, used like 4 of them, and lost a team fight on their second attack. So it's just kind of an interesting play from them, and that's the reason that they weren't able to cap the second point the second time, and Fusion got it 4-3.
And I mean, even the second point on their first attack, I mean, we saw them take point A in basically a minute, which gave them like almost 6 minutes time, I think it was, to take point B on their first attack. And they had all kinds of ults, and they definitely had the ult advantage. They had the spawn advantage going into it. But Fusion University flipped their defense so hard for point B that it took them all the way down to 36 seconds left in their time bank after their first attack. After that super quick take on point A, like they didn't do anything with the time that they built up. Fusion University's defense went completely stifling, which then gave them the benefit of the time bank, which gave them the lead going into this. Sorry about my dog. Fusion University baited and managed all of the ults of the British Hurricane pretty much perfectly, which is what allowed them to take this one map. I just kind of wish they would have figured this out a little bit earlier in the series.
Yeah. Moving on to our final map, and the thing that closed it all out was Junkertown. And what do we see here? We saw Zachary kind of coming up clutch again, gets 2 really good pulse bombs on the same point on A to be able to cap it out. While escorting the payload, he played that a lot kind of on his own, and did he kind of like clutched it on his own, which is always really cool to see. Then they played the Mei, which is a pretty good call into this Bastion, because there's not a whole lot of things you can run it well. So what he uses is to like boost up the Bastion behind the shield, or above the shield, so he was vulnerable, and they popped him. But the problem was, like, they got the Bastion, they got like 2 or 3 kills, but in the end, like, British Hurricane just had more people left in the end, so it worked kind of, but not as well as it should have. And because part of that is because I have Craggy the Undying here in my notes. They were focusing around him so much. They were like all of the healing. They had both the Zenyatta orb, or I think it was the Moira primary healing, and the Mercy around him as well. So he had like so much healing. He took so much damage, had the self heal as well. So they were able to just kind of run through most of the point kind of uncontested.
No, I've got a note here about this exact situation. Fusion University ran the strangest defense at the initial like start of the pirate ship. The pirate ship was completely built. You got Bastion sitting on the top. He's got a shield in front of him, a shield in behind him. What does Fusion University do? They literally dive right on top of the Bastion, inside of the shields. Now you think that would work, but he was focused so much that he literally wiped everyone, standing right outside of the first point. There was a moment where he turns around and just unloads into, I believe it was Krakenlaken on Diva, and just shoots little baby Diva inside of her mech right in the face because she's right there, and then just spins around and gets like 3 more kills. Shortly after that, he's got his tank built up. And what does he do? He gets a quintuple kill with his tank. Who gets a quintuple kill with a tank Bastion? Craggy does. Like, their pirate ship was literally the definition of a perfect pirate ship from the start to taking point A. It was amazing. Like, Fusion University had no answer for that pirate ship.
Yeah, and then they also had no answer to the train wreck, as there's no new term for it. Like, it's kind of spawn camping, but it's kind of more just like it's like a bronze level style of like, cool, we're gonna hold right outside their spawn doors. We don't want to take anything. We don't want to like play back and let them come into us. Now we're gonna like literally stand outside of their spawn. And normally it doesn't work very well. Normally your bronze competitive team kind of just gets wrecked. But when you were the British Hurricane and you were incredibly well coordinated and running really heavy tanks and can run tanks well, you just destroy Fusion University. So they waited right outside that little room that like no one ever goes in. If you're coming on attack, right, like to the left side, there's like waiting there. As soon as they get on the payload, British Hurricane jump on like, hey, and you're like, oh crap, and then everyone just dies. So they're really good at playing that really aggro defense.
And kind of to close out the match, they had just wiped everybody, and they were trying.
By the way,
no, I was clicked off of the Discord. Fusion University was trying to get people back, so they're coming, and they could have almost gotten back, except they got a graviton surge planted right in the middle of the map that just sucked everybody in and prevented anybody from making it back to the point. The British Hurricane literally played Junkertown perfectly. Like, they 100% played. They just outclassed Fusion University, which, I mean, those guys are pretty good.
Yeah. But that was about it. That's all I have for that. British Hurricane just ran tanks, and they ran it well, and Fusion is not good against tanks. I would have loved to see what Toronto could have done, but obviously, like, we would need Dalton and Nero to be to their online point as opposed to their land point, which is not as good as online. So it's like a big like what if, but like in this case, particularly, British Hurricane were the better team. They ran dive and they ran it well, and they ran tanks better than Fusion did.
And just watching just the finals weekend, we know that there's going to be expansion teams coming up, and I got into a discussion with someone from the EU about expansion teams, and they don't think that there's enough tanks for what is being called that. There's been rumors put out on ESPN articles that they're looking for 4 to 6 teams, and someone said, "Oh well, I don't think there's enough tanks." There are more than enough tanks. Just in Contenders finals on both sides of EU and NA, the tank lines played phenomenally. It's watching what's going to happen with these teams right now, because we're in stage 4 of Overwatch League. We're going to start to get the announcements of new teams. The teams that we see today playing for Contenders in 6 months aren't going to be a thing, because a lot of these guys are going to get picked up. Teams are going to get shuffled around. So watching the Contender stuff is it's going to change every single season, and we're told that we're going to get 3 seasons of Contenders every year. So we're just in season 1, and we're watching crazy plays. But that's going to wrap up the quick play. We really don't have a speculation station for this week because there's really nothing going on. We're going to try to check out some of the open division play this week, because I believe we have one more week of regular play, and then we'll be getting into the playoffs, which will then take us right into trials. So we're going to be right back to tons of Overwatch again in the middle of stage 4. We didn't really have a community intel this week, but I did throw up a Twitter poll the middle of last week after we saw all of the official jerseys for the NA teams. So what I put was what NA teams from the semifinals had the best jerseys this weekend. And I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. We had 12 votes. Next time I need more votes, people. Come on. Let's make these Twitter polls worth it. Optic Gaming with 1 coming in with their black and green jerseys. Toronto Esports, which kind of surprised me, only got 2 votes, so they came in third. Envision Gaming for a long time was leading. Their jerseys were super clean. I personally think that they had the best jerseys of the weekend, but topping it out with their ever so spicy jerseys, we got FU coming in with 5 votes, taking the best jersey of the weekend, according to our 12 fans out there in Twitter world.
Yeah, I would have gone for Envision as well, and I think if it wasn't for the controversy,
Yep.
I think Envision would have won the jersey game pretty handedly. But you always got to go for the bad boys, and in that case, Fusion University is like your rebel group who were like, we're gonna have FU on our jerseys. Look at how edgy we are, and Blizzard's like, nah, bro.
Yeah, you're not gonna edge lord us. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. So we're gonna do our sellouts like we always do. Twitch followers, we got a couple tonight. I'm gonna shout you guys out next show. Don't you worry. But we're still looking for more Twitch followers. If you are an audio listener, just stop by, make a Twitch account. It's free. If you got Twitch or if you have Amazon Prime, you should really do it. Because then I'm gonna talk to you when we get affiliate. That comes a little bit later, people. If you are a Twitch viewer, we have a couple people that do follow on Twitch. Just swing by iTunes, leave us a review. I don't care if it's a 1-star, I don't care if it's a 5-star. Let us know what we're doing wrong so we can try to fix it. If you like something about the show, let us know so we can try to make it even better for you. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Kyle, why don't you tell them where they can find you on the internet?
If you want to find me on the interwebs, I do Twitter at Kyle the Winner on Twitter, winner spelled WYNNER. Same on Twitch. I stream occasionally on Twitch. I will probably try to stream my Conan Exiles fun times with my friends after this. Kyle the Winner on Twitch. And then lastly, you can find me on the oh so fantastic High Noon Podcast Discord. I'm just Kyle Win there. I'm not going for Discord.
And you can find me over on Twitter at Thornrain. You can find my Twitch, also Thornrain, but I do most of my streaming on the Blackwatch Report stream right now. You can find the show on Twitter at Blackwatch Report, no O in report. You can email the show, blackwatchreport@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitch, twitch.tv/blackwatchreport. We record live, typically Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Our intro music is the main theme for Overwatch, covered by none other than our very own Kyle Wynn. This has been a High Noon production. You can find all of the shows at highnoonpodcast.com. And you can stop by the Discord and chat with all of the hosts, discord.me/highnoonpodcast. Now, I do have one special announcement here. High Noon Productions has recently added a new show.
And it's good, too. I listened to the first episode. It's solid.
It's very good. First show had Deepe, the head coach for the Los Angeles Gladiators. It is called All Things Considered. Yes, it's a beautiful name. And that is hosted by Taco from OverwatchScore.com. Interviews and insights about all things Overwatch League will hit audio feeds and YouTube on Tuesdays, with next week's episode being episode number 2. So you still have time to catch up on episode number 1, and none other than High Noon Podcast Deathblow is going to be the guest on that episode. So be sure to check it out. It's going to be on the High Noon Podcast feed for a couple weeks, I believe, and then it's going to go over to its own feed. So make sure that you subscribe to that on iTunes, and then check them out on YouTube. He doesn't have a special link yet, so just search All Things Considered on YouTube, and I'm sure you will find those videos. And with that, Blackwatch out.